Islam and Muslims. You've probably heard of us. We're all over the news. But not for the best reasons. As Muslims, we live every day knowing that when one guy, one place, somewheres who might follow Islam does something halfway across the world, we're all going to go to court for it. We end up spending 6 months condemning the action, then the other 6 months apologizing for it, even though we had absolutely nothing to do with it. So in case you haven't realized, Islam is probably one of the most misunderstood religions out there. We have been associated with terror, and hatred, and beards.
You know, the good stuff.
We're also not very good at expressing ourselves either, except with action. And those don't end well, so please don't do any of that. Therefore, I've decided to start making these videos to eliminate stereotypes revolving around Muslims and the image of Islam. We live in a time where people make money off of bashing religions and certain minority groups. Unfortunately, it's Islam's turn now. Whenever lies, hate, and bigotry are spread, it's always Muslims who pay the ultimate price. Not the radical Muslims, those make a lot of money off of the property they steal. I'm talking about the normal day-to-day Muslims who work, study, and try to make a living, and pay their taxes too. Those Muslims, on their way to work, on their way to school, on their way to wherever they're going, will either be verbally or physically assaulted.
Not all of them, but a sizable amount.
And I know what you're thinking. What lies, what false statements, what negative media are we talking about? Well, if you've been watching the news between 2001 and today, you'll kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about. But because I'm generous, I've done the research for you. So without further ado, grab a snack because the movie's about to start. Oh, wrong movie. Here's the right one.
God hates the Muslim religion!
Arabs get out, angry residents chanted as they trashed this prayer house and burnt dozens of Qurans. Raging mobs smashed glass doors, ransacked the property, leaving some 50 vandalized holy books littering the street.
Every Muslim is a terrorist. Period.
Right now.
Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear your mouth.
You know what they say, nothing tastes like racism, marinated in hatred, and deep fried in ignorance. A recipe for success. Unfortunately, many of these false statements and lies have been spread about like the common cold during flu season. So as a non-radical, moderate Muslim, or as normal people like to call us, you know, Muslims, so I decided to start tackling these stereotypes, one joke at a time. And the only terror that's going to happen here are my lousy jokes. They're pretty bad. And many of these people who go on the news and don't really know anything about Islam and decide to start explaining their in-depth expertise about the Middle East and Muslims, their arguments sound as logical as this.
Well, my neighbor's brother's daughter had a dog who knew a Muslim cat who knew a snake in the Sudan that said Islam was evil.
You know, those kind of statements. And it's quite sad how we live in a time where if you want to make a name for yourself, all you really have to do is insult Muslims.
Really, it's amazing. You can make a lot of money off of it too.
I'm kind of thinking of doing it myself, really. I'm kind of running low on cash. And if news channels can insult Islam and Muslims and other minority groups and make money off of it, why can't I defend them for free?
I'd like to see the mainstream media compete with that.
Oh, well, they probably could because they're backed by multi-billion-dollar corporations and I'm in my room yelling in front of a camera. My parents must be so proud.
Really? No, not really.
And remember, you can say whatever you want, just as long as it doesn't help anyone and it doesn't tackle any serious issues. But the moment you start talking about serious things that can actually benefit people and educate people, then you have another thing coming. However, if you want to talk about anything else that helps absolutely no one, then you got yourself your own show. The main perception of Muslims in the mainstream media is that we are all bloodthirsty, war-loving, bearded, toothless, angry barbarians, holding either flip-flops, burnt flags, AK-47s, rocket launchers, or severed heads.
And that's just the good stuff.
We're also portrayed as infidel-hating, women-abusing, virgin-loving barbarians. So please, when you're on the news or any social media network and you see something that's cringe-worthy, look it up. It's the information age. Google it. And now I know it's very hard to think outside the box. It's very hard to open your mind and, you know, see things from a different perspective because we have so many things to worry about. We have our card games. We have our cooking shows. We have our game shows.
Those are pretty important, man.
Unfortunately, the only thing that can result from fear-mongering is increased hatred and violence. Because when people hate each other, it's easier to divide them. And when they're divided, it's easier to pass certain bills with weird names that no one really understands and then take away all your freedoms.
Isn't politics fun?
And then a few years down the road, we end up getting certain people who adhere to certain religions and they end up sitting around in concentration camps. Fortunately, there are so many people out there who fight for justice and equality. They do not discriminate against Muslims or any other minority group. However, the media doesn't focus on those people because those people are boring. Those people don't sell news. Radical Muslims do.
So the news isn't really to report what's going on around the world. It's more like a business.
Ultimately, it is up to us Muslims to show the rest of the world that Islam, just like many other religions out there, is a religion of peace. But a few hateful groups can ruin it for the majority of us. So I will be posting these videos on a weekly basis. Every video will try to tackle a certain stereotype or misconception. And just as a reminder, these videos aren't for me to try to convert you and draw you into Islam. I have other things to do. You're not going to be watching this video, suddenly get dizzy, collapse, wake up, find out you have 4 wives and a contract that says you have 72 virgins waiting for you in heaven. Although, that would be pretty nice. Now, when I clarify a misconception, I'm not going to be speaking out of thin air or from what I think Islam is. I'm going to bring verses from the Quran and the sayings and teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So my Islam disproving the mainstream media's false ideas and theories about Islam. And hopefully, in this process, giving you insight into this religion of over 1.6 billion followers. So that's it for today. Please stay tuned. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If this video gives you a stroke, diarrhea, constipation, internal bleeding, or any abdominal discomfort, ask your doctor if racism is right for you. Ignorance sold separately, logic not included.
As a non-radical, moderate Muslim, I'm here to... What am I here to do? Well, my neighbor's son's dog knew a Muslim cat. Well, my neighbor's brother's daughter. Well, my neighbor's daughter's brother's dog knew a Muslim cat who knew a snake in the Sudan that said Islam was evil. Woo! Almost died there.